So at this stage in the conversation, we're starting to hit the wall. We're starting to reach the territory where arguments for strong artificial intelligence really start to break down. There's a lot of psychological projection going on, misattribution, circular logic, and a whole host of other speculations that are insubstantial. Let's break it down.
Yeah, but there's something I really enjoy about the folly of people. That's one of the main things that I worry about with AI. That are the things that we find cute about us being ridiculous, like that, or like the sign language guy, or any of these things.
But that's the thing that computers are really good at. I mean, once computers get good at this sort of thing,
but we're programming them.
Right? No, but we can.
Yeah, but we're programming them. We're programming them.
Excellent rebuttal, Dan Harris, and it only took 4 words. Why does this little quip matter? Well, because it's a simple, short refutation. How can we expect the machine intelligence to just manifest these properties when we're the ones that have to fill in the gap to fill in the supposed gap filler? If it's not an inherent quality of machine intelligence, why would we expect it to just spontaneously appear? This idea echoes an old and obsolete scientific theory originally posited by Aristotle, spontaneous generation. In simple terms, spontaneous generation was the idea that inorganic matter could be a host to the spontaneous emergence of organisms. Natural philosophers thought that if you left rotting meat out, then it would spontaneously generate maggots and then subsequently flies. This body of thought was quite popular in the 18th century. That is, until it was found brutally murdered to death outside its summer home by Louis Pasteur. The weapon of choice? A swan-necked flask. The swan-neck flask made it difficult for moisture and air to travel through it, thus inhibiting the movement of microorganisms toward the nutrient broth. According to spontaneous generation, the life should have just emerged in the flask. This was clearly and demonstrably not the case. What does this have to do with the artificial intelligence debate? Quite a bit, actually. If we're to take the promises of strong artificial intelligence proponents at their word, then we should just be able to build a recipe for a human brain, or a recipe for intelligence in these machine components. A little bit of silicon, little bit of RAM.
That's a spicier brain pewter.
Thus far, this has been the generalized thesis of the argument. Will the goose that lays the golden egg lay a golden egg-laying goose? Find out never on the next episode of What If?
The incentives are not aligned to make us prudent in the development of that, and an arms race is the worst case for that, because the incentives are to get to the end zone as quickly as you can, because the guy next to you is doing the same,
right.
And you don't know whether he's ahead of you or behind you, right? And it's a winner take all scenario.
Absolutely.
Because the amount of wealth that will go to the winner of this race, if things work, if this person doesn't, or if this group doesn't destroy the world, is unimaginable. I mean, it's just, we're talking about a level of kind of windfall profits that we just haven't seen in any other domain.
100 million billion trillion space dollars. Now, you may be asking yourself, where am I getting these numbers from? Well, that's simple. It's from the Intergalactic Monetary Exchange, located, for your convenience, in my pants. Granted, we can expect major changes in industrial efficiency with the advent of these kinds of automated processes. There's no reason to assume that the gains would be as recursive as they have been pronounced by their proponents. They're going to have to hit some kind of physical hardware limit eventually. And when that moment comes, it's going to go right back to the engineers. Moving on.
that moment, and they go, "This is the emergence of the American empire."
Yeah, but this is so much bigger than that because the bombs, the power in the bomb was just the implicit threat that you might use them if you get pissed off, right? But
Right.
you can't do anything with the bombs. Here, we're talking about the resource that does everything. We're talking about intelligence.
Can the resource that does everything create matter? Because if it can't, then we're not talking about the resource that can do everything.
We're talking about the cure for cancer. We're talking about the best virtual reality entertainment.
Real wrath of God type stuff.
Exactly.
Fire and brimstone coming down from the skies.
Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
I should make note at this point that I have been reading into Nick Bostrom's Superintelligence, Paths, Dangers, and Strategies. And considering the rhetoric that's been flared up by Sam here, I wasn't terribly shocked to find out that it read like a gambling addict's wet dream. Nick even makes it very clear in the beginning passages of the book that he might not have any idea what he's talking about, which I guess good on him for being self-aware, but the rest of it is then kind of flung up in the air. What do we do now? Why assume this is going to happen? I mean, don't get me wrong, it sounds great. I want my 100 wishes from the genie's lamp too, and I want to be able to wish for another 100 wishes. But is it actually conceivable? Is the genie's lamp, is the Pandora's box of AI really real, or do we just want it to be?
We're talking about I mean, everything that a human being. I mean, once you're talking about general human intelligence and beyond, you're talking about now suddenly having access to the smartest people who have ever lived, who never sleep, who never get tired, who never get distracted.
It's like a lottery machine that only dispenses winning tickets.
Because now they're machines, and the smartest people who have never lived, right? People who are 1,000 times smarter than those people and getting smarter every hour,
Can I quote you on that? Where are you getting these numbers from?
right?
No, wrong.
Right.
Definitely wrong.
Right. And what are they going to do for you when they're your slaves? Right? Because now you're talking about, because you don't have to feed these people, right?
Right.
They're just working for you. Just like, how powerful would you suddenly be if you had 10,000 of the smartest people in the world working for you?
Now, the obvious question that comes to mind here is, if they're so smart, why don't they just get up and leave? I'm a dummy. Why are they listening to me? Are these things intelligent or are they redundant? There's a big difference. In spite of the fact that Sam thinks these things are going to become self-aware, he's still speaking of them industrially in terms that are consistent with unself-aware artificial intelligence, which obviously I contend is the only kind that can exist, but it's just interesting that his brain would hit that note over and over again because he's thinking in those terms, because it's the only way we can realistically assume they'll unravel. Why would they just come self-aware? There's no precedent. The Staplers have staged a rebellion on floor 6, Carl. What are we going to do? When in Rome, let them eat lead. And that more or less concludes this long-winded rant on artificial intelligence and Sam Harris. We'll cut Sam loose for now and hopefully have more content to speak on the topic later. Thanks for listening. See you next time.
It's drinking the water! This is the greatest invention in the world. You'll make $1 million.